Good afternoon, everybody. How's it going? It is so cold in New York. I can't even begin to explain. It is absolutely freezing. It was 8 degrees when I went to the post office today to drop off some books for people that ordered them. Yeah, it's been absolutely crazy. I have a really good friend on right now, Occult Priestess, who we're going to get into the astral realm and consciousness. And she is like a black belt at this stuff. And I've got a ton of questions lined up, but as usual, I don't have them written down. It's just I fit them in as the conversation goes on. I don't like the pre-recorded questions like they do in late night TV. And just wanted to welcome you all. I was on Coast to Coast till like 3 in the morning last night, so I'm a little tired, but I have my energy drinks, my soda. So I don't drink energy drinks anymore, but I have my soda, so that should be fine. Again, this is not a podcast. This is something that I'm doing because I bring the people who are most influential in my life and the people who are the most interesting in my life. I want to introduce them to you. So let me introduce you to Occult Priestess right now. Hello, darling.
Hello, good afternoon. Freezing up there in New York. How you doing out
Yeah,
there? I can't believe you were on Coast to Coast last night. It's so exciting.
I know. Yeah, it was great. It was a little bit of an ambush, to be honest with you. See, the guy who hosted it, Richard Syrett, I reached out to him about 2, 3 years ago. What did you call me before? You had a name for me. You were
Oh my
like
goodness. Well, you're Danka.
yeah, well, Danka, but it was like the Hustler or something, or the podcast something or other.
Definitely something like that.
It was something like that. Yeah. So I reached out to Richard, and I did his show a couple times. It's called Strange Things or Strange Topics or something of that nature. And I did his show, and then he was like, one day he was like, "Oh, by the way, I sit in for George Norrie. Do you want to come on Coast?" So I did that. And at the time when I
Fancy.
did the first one 2.5 years ago, it was strictly astrotheology, and I was completely convinced that that was the only thing the Bible was, because I saw Santos and I saw Jordan, and I was like, "This is it." I've since evolved my thinking to realize that it's more than we can ever learn in our lifetime. There's at least 10 holy sciences. And I started getting into that. So he asked me to come back on, and I did. And we started taking calls, and I'm in the second hour. And what I was talking about was God,
Actually,
basically.
I went to the website because I wanted to listen to it, but it kept asking for my email. But you can read underneath your show, the description, and the callers and what they said to you.
And if you noticed, if you read that, I got lambasted by a bunch of Christians.
You really did, mister. I'm sure you're still butthurt today.
Yeah, well, basically, Richard is a Christian. And when we first got together, he goes, I won't put you on if you do anything that denies the divinity of Jesus Christ, because that's what I believe. So I said, okay. So I'm presenting an alternative view. Now, his view is basically that the Bible can be astrologically, but it's actually telling the story. Like Jesus fulfilled the story in the stars. So I'm like, all right, if that's how you want to see it, that's fine. But I started talking about God being infinite and how the religious people say that God is infinite. And I make the case that, okay, if God is infinite, then how do you exist outside of it? And when you make that argument, they don't get very happy. So I got attacked a bunch of times on the callers about that. But it's fine because, I got it out there, and I got some emails. I got some people on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram that reached out to me. They friended me today. They're like, I saw you on last night. You got a lot of balls going on there, walking into the lion's den like that. And basically they were like, it was like you were reading my mind. I'm looking forward, you're a really good find. I'm looking forward to looking into your work. So I had this conversation with them. And yeah, that's basically what it is. Coast to Coast is a lot different than it used to be.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, since Art Bell left, it's been
Since
a
Art Bell
complete
left, yeah, it used to be
animal.
people
But
like
I've
truthers.
I've met George Norrie, and I don't think he has a spiritual bone in his body, honestly.
Right. But it's people searching for higher truths, this and that.
The
Now it's just,
audience, but usually the hosts are just business people, in my opinion.
yeah. And it's become very political. It's become a very
Hasn't
religious.
everything?
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but I mean, it's still a great show. It's still, I do appreciate Richard, even though he unfollowed me on Twitter. I can't remember when.
It's still a big deal to be on there, regardless of the feedback or anything, just to get your face up on there. I think that's great. And I'm, proud of you for doing it. And I think I called you like a media whore or something.
Yeah,
Attention
it was
whore.
something, but you're right.
But you're
It
just a
was.
marketer, and I'm not used to marketers. That's all.
Well, basically, every time you would have someone on, I would reach out to them privately. And it's not because I'm like trying to like steal your audience or like try and get on shows that you are because I'm like obsessed with you. It's because like
I would never think that.
No, it's because like you guys know new people that I don't know, and when I see a new name and they have a platform, I'm just like, hey, what do you think of this idea? That's the way I treat it. And
I know
thankfully,
you're a go-getter, like more than I've ever seen anybody. And I appreciate that about you because I'm not a go-getter. I'm a sitter, waiting for people to come to me.
yeah, I would love to see where that's in your chart, to be honest with you.
That'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun. We should probably visit that when we can.
Yeah, we can get my astrologer Priscilla back on, and we can
We
do
could.
the charts.
She's good. She's good at what she does.
She's very good. She's the best that I've ever found. She's the best that I've ever found, and I'm constantly texting her and reminding me because she has a rough life. She does.
Right, I know
has,
that. We did that Star Wars show together.
Yeah, but she has such good spirits. And I'm always like texting her and I'm like, listen, you got this. I'm always helping out if I can. And I'm just trying to be, a really good friend to her. And I kind of put the mentality in her to start reaching out to podcasters. And I put a business mind in her. Mm-hmm. She is motivated on her own and she had it on her own, but I don't think she really saw the marketing and the podcasting scene yet. Mm-hmm. So that was it. But yeah, Coast to Coast went till 3 a.m. And you're on the East Coast now, aren't you, darling?
I am. I moved. I'm not as cold as you are,
no.
But I moved to South Carolina this past year, a few months ago, and getting used to everything. And it's like 40 degrees today. It's not that bad. It's sunny.
Are you in Charleston?
No, I'm near Greenville, South Carolina. It's beautiful here. And it's quiet.
Yeah,
I came from Los Angeles. People don't know. I came from the pit of hell, about 5 miles from downtown Los Angeles. Very hard 6 years of my life, but I was on a mission from God, and I learned so much, and I'm so grateful. But now I'm just trying to get back to me, myself, and I kind of situation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I always tell people that when they ask me, I say, if you love yourself, if you're happy with who you are and you love yourself, and you can't find love in things like sex, women, money,
the 5 senses.
You can't find love in that. You have to love yourself. And if you actually do love yourself,
yes, I do.
You have to realize, if you do love yourself, then you realize that every decision you've ever made has led you to the moment that you're at right this exact moment. And if you're happy with it, then you have to accept your past.
Oh, well, I accept my past as it happens. So I'm not really a reminiscer that much, but that's because I have healed myself. I am a healthy psyche and heart. And it's just really rare in this world that someone's done that. So speaking of stealing people's audiences, I am Occult Priestess at occultpriestess.com. I've been a professional soul counselor / psychic for over 30 years. And I'm here to help in this time of the groundbreaking of conspiracy, really getting into the Muggle world. Conspiracy is breaking into the Muggle world, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Well, especially so the word conspiracy theory was created by the CIA about people who didn't agree with the JFK narrative. And then the CIA recently came out and said, yeah, we killed him. And no one gave a shit.
Exactly.
So like they created this term for us, and then they came out. And nobody has attention spans anymore.
That's what they keep saying. That keeps being the excuse, is that everyone's got a TikTok, consciousness. It's too quick and too fast. But I don't even believe in ADHD. I think all of these things can be healed with meditation.
Okay. So
It's just a sick society. And that's what Krishnamurti said. He said it is no measure of health to be well adjusted
in
to
a
a
sick society.
profoundly sick society.
Right. I've heard
Krishnamurti.
that for sure.
Yeah, he's
heard
freaking
that.
awesome. Everyone should look him up on YouTube. Krishnamurti.
Yes. So let's talk about
And
the
by the
astral
way,
realm.
he
Let's start
taught
getting.
Bruce Lee. That's the interesting thing about Krishnamurti. He wasn't just a mystic or a psychic. He taught Bruce Lee to mix martial arts. So he's a badass.
Nice. Very nice. I've seen these videos of these like Tai Chi yogis, and they get into the fight with like a UFC fighter, and they just get destroyed. So I don't know if you've ever seen these videos, but they practice like Quan, whatever it's called, Quan Go, and Tai Chi, and all these other meditation related, and they just get their ass kicked. But yeah, so let's talk about the astral realm, since this is one of the topics that we have today. So my first question to you that I want to ask you, aside from you defining the astral realm for people who are new, is well, let's start with that. Define the astral realm if you can.
All right, so a little background on me, just to let you know, I know what I'm talking about and why I know what I'm talking about, because so many people out here don't know, and they're just little parrots repeating things that they've heard. So I have been astral projecting since I was born, basically. I was born with sleep paralysis, which some people call a medical issue, but I understand that it is a demonic haunting from the other dimension. And so through that haunting, my fear got so great so many times that I actually projected out of my body and ended up in my bedroom. Sometimes I knew I wasn't in my body. Other times I felt like I was in my body, but I actually wasn't. So I have a long history of astral projection, voluntary and non-voluntary. So our ancient ancestors, who some people would remember are us reincarnated. So we're incarnated, our ancient ancestors, we're them. But we used to know as a collective, as a people, that there was another realm. We were much more in touch with it when we were closer to nature and actually growing our own food and working the earth the way humans should be working the earth.
That's why the Egyptians revered the cats, because they could literally see it.
Yeah, true. And many Egyptians could also see it too.
Right.
And that's the thing. The more that we've come closer in time to the nowness is the dumbest part of all our incarnations, the dimmest part, really. So many people do not remember, and they don't even remember their dreams, much less astral flight.
Right.
So the astral realm is honestly, it's a different state of consciousness. That's what's so hard for people to understand. It's not necessarily a place. It is a place in a sense that your mind, heart, emotion, soul can reach and does exist in at all times, living
Would you
or dead.
consider it a dimension?
I would consider it a dimension. So when you're in this dimension, this is what we call 3D Earth. Everything's physical and empirical, supposedly. But if you read Carl Jung, he writes prolifically about the psychic part of our lives. So we have a psyche, which literally translates to soul. So psychology is supposed to be the study of the soul when it's the study of the brain. So psychology isn't something I talk about much, but I do talk about Carl Jung because he understood it. He got it. So we go into a sleep state and the soul leaves the body. And where you go depends on your karma and all kinds of things. So your karma and then how you're acting in this current lifetime, if you're moral or if you're immoral, depends on where you're going to go in the astral plane. So I think the first thing is, Micah, how come people don't remember their dreams and don't remember going to the astral? What's that all about?
Well, the convenient answer that a lot of psychologists would say is that your brain is protecting you.
Your brain.
That's what they say. Yeah. They say your brain is protecting you. And there's a lot of people out there that do like drugs or drink alcohol and do things that absolutely inhibit your ability to produce the DMT and be self-aware of and become lucid in your dream. But yeah, that's what they basically say. They say it's a brain problem.
We could also say that people who've been in abusive relationships or were abused as children having natural block in their brain because
Right.
they're holding back a tide of pain and problems.
And if that gets bad enough, sometimes people get split personality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Because you see this in TV. In TV, they show you this, guys, everyone that's listening. In TV, they show you this. They always show you every time there's somebody with multiple personalities or like split, they'll always show you that it's the strong personality that comes out to protect the weaker main personality. That's what it basically is.
Definitely. And I think that's a perversion of the oversoul or the higher self. It's actually been replaced with some kind of demonic entity, usually. So I really believe that we are either growing towards the light and becoming more angelic, or we are atrophying in the darkness and becoming a demon. So we're on one or two paths, one of those paths.
Right.
And so the astral, when we meditate or when we just get really quiet and we are really in our prayers, when you're really talking to God, you got God on the phone and you're really there with him. That moment, that space is your soul. That's the true self. And that's the self that travels through the
So do you think that the religious people, like in church, when they place the holy hand on you, the spirit on you, and then the person starts shaking and they have all these videos of this, do you think that's a perversion of the actual truth?
I think that is possible to happen, but for the most part, churches on TV are show business. But definitely that's where they got it from. Where they took it from was the past, was when that actually worked. And there were yogis and mystics giving blessings or Shakti pots onto the people. But we don't really see authentically that going on much anymore.
Gotcha. So people like Edgar Casey, and I don't think I've ever asked you your opinion on Edgar Casey, but where do you think he went to get his information? He seemed to have a direct pinpoint line into the Akashic Records. I was just wondering what your thoughts on him were.
It's very, very controversial, but I believe Edgar Casey was being used by the New World Order, basically, to put it very, very simply, but social engineers, people that wanted us to be thinking about Atlantis and times in the past and I mean, it's just the same today. If Edgar Casey were alive today, he would be into aliens and he would be telling you all about the other planets and the aliens that live there. So this was a new age ruse because of who he was involved with and the time period, everything he was dealing with and how popular he was and how popular he still is. So I can't say I necessarily believe that Edgar Casey was as talented and wonderful as we're told. I've tried some of his healing remedies and they did not work.
Okay. We were talking about when you astral project your karma. What I tell people this, and I try and tell people this, I try and teach them, but you really have to understand it for yourself before you can apply it. I tell people that we are not our thoughts. We are not responsible for our thoughts. The ones that just pop into your head or the ones that you self-generate. We're not responsible. What we're karmically responsible for is our actions and our intentions.
That's why karma means action, precisely.
Right. And that's what I try and explain to people, that karma is it's the universal law. In fact, we talk about the revelation of the method when these elites keep showing us the stuff that they're doing to us. That's because they're terrified of karma. They know it's real. They know it's real. That's why they do that. There was a movie that came out. I don't know if you've ever seen it, called Insidious. It was a scary movie that came out around the same time The Conjuring came out. And
I've seen the picture of it.
In the movie, in Insidious 2, I believe, the storyline, it was really interesting because it's this demonic creature, right? In Insidious 2, there's this child that went to sleep and didn't wake up, but he's not dead. He just can't wake up. And so they brought in a spirit host, and she found out that basically he can astral project. But what happened is he went too far, and he explored too far, and he got lost. So the father has to go into this astral realm. This is a horror movie, by the way.
This actually happened on the X-Files as well, when Mulder lost his consciousness and went on a shamanic journey.
Right. And then basically the father has to go, and he goes through this demonic realm.
Yes.
Where everything just scares the shit out of you.
Yes.
And he had to find his son and bring him back to his body so that he could come back.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, that was the movie Insidious 2, I believe. I think it was 2. They made a ton since then, but I thought it was incredibly creative to put that deep of a topic in a horror movie, you know? But so what happens when you take me, if you can remember, to your first time you astral projected? And I have a question for you, because I've heard this and I've put this in my books, but I've heard that this happens and I've heard that this doesn't happen. Apparently there's like a tethering device at your belly button that tethers you to...
You're talking about the silver cord.
Yeah, the silver cord. Is that true to you?
For me personally, I have no silver cord, and I have gone too far in exploration. So, that may be another story, but you can go too far if you're full of light. There's no boundaries. God is infinite for real. And There are no boundaries when you're really working your consciousness, working your heart, because it really is in the heart. It's not an intellectual pursuit. I wish people would understand that. You have to get out of the intellect into the heart to be able to truly travel and explore like an astral astronaut, which is what I am. What was the question?
No, about the silver cord, but my question.
Oh, right. So most humans, I have found, do have a silver. Well, I don't know if it's silver, but they do have a cord tethering them. They see it all the time when they're projecting or dreaming. But
and it's basically so they could find their way home.
They say that because that's more of a non-graduated earth state. So this soul has not graduated from the realms of the earth plane, is still here karmically learning lessons. But once you have found your own enlightenment in any lifetime, I believe that cord is cut and you are an astral astronaut of the universe because you've graduated the earth realm. Why are you still here? Maybe you're a volunteer. Maybe you're a bodhisattva, a Buddhist, and you're here to help the rest of the family along.
So what do we think? When you astral project, I've also heard from people, I don't know if you've ever heard the case of Pam Reynolds, the woman who had the brain surgery, and while she was put under, she had a out-of-body experience, which was actually recorded by all the doctors because they were doing the surgery. And so basically what happened, for people who are new, is she had this brainstem tumor, right? And it was like a ganglioma. And what happened was they couldn't just operate on it because it would just start spurting blood and leak it. So what they did was they dropped her body down to like 50 degrees, 60 degrees. They stopped everything. They put her on bypass. They stopped everything. They drained the blood from her head. They put clicking devices in her ear because what happens is they put the clickers in, and when the clickers would snap, your brainstem would register. So they had to wait till the brainstem didn't register anymore. Otherwise, she would.
Wild! That is so radio gaga weird.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
science is creepy.
So the other thing that they did too is they covered her eyes with tape. So she's now blind and deaf because she has the clickers in her ear. She's blind. They put her under. They drop her. She's, for all intents and purposes, dead. She has an out-of-body experience where she floats to the top of the room. She explains. When she woke up, she told the nurses that she heard them say her veins were too small and to use the artery, because in surgery sometimes what they do is they'll take an artery and they'll flip it upside down and use it as a vein. That's what they use it sometimes when they do surgeries. And
Freaking
she
out.
saw the bone saw that was cutting her head open. She
Oh,
described it
Jesus
perfectly.
Christ.
So she had this perfect near-death experience or astral projection while her body was completely dead. Now, the thing that they say is, this is the part that's interesting to people, or interesting to me, for example, because we like to think that we're our five senses, our ears, our taste, our eyes. We like to think that these organs are what give it to us. However, when you astral project, they say that you can hear 1,000 times better. You can see crystal clear. Do you find that to be true? And do you have any explanation as to why we have these
Yeah,
heightened
I
senses?
do.
Hmm?
You're using your real eyes and your real ears. So in Buddhism, we have a mantra: no eye, no ear, no tongue, to remind us we are not the body. We inhabit the body. The body is a beautiful animal made by God, but we are a soul within the vessel. And so you're actually seeing, like they say, when Neo in the Matrix gets up into the Nebuchadnezzar, into the ship, he's like, man, why am I so hurting? Why can't I can't see with my eyes?
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
so
you said you've never used them. I
That's
remember that.
right, because that's the third eye, that's the astral self, that's the true self. And that's what the Matrix, if it depends on how you watch it. If you watch it from a heaven view or if you're watching it from a hell view, what state of consciousness are you watching the Matrix on? Because if you're watching it on the high state of consciousness, it all makes perfect sense. But it could be twisted and inverted and be the same damn movie.
Now, would you agree that nothing is attacked more from birth than your pineal gland?
Heart, I would say maybe the heart more.
Well, they say you have three brains, right? And I know you don't like the term brain, because with the brain, they say you have your brain, then your heart has a brain. That's why you emotionally feel things. It can sense things. And your gut. Your gut is your third brain. There's most of your serotonin comes from your gut. That's why when you're really into someone, you get butterflies, because that's your serotonin acting up. So they
So
say that
Mike
we
Bank is giving us a chemical class. Okay.
I know you like to keep it in the spiritual, but so when you're projecting, are you 100% self-aware of everything? Like, explain to me. You don't have to explain your own trials and tribulations, but how would one work on themselves? Say say they detached, they astral projected. How would they be able to work on themselves? And are you completely self-aware of it?
I am completely self-aware of my astral projections. There's many times at night, it's not, I mean, it's neat, but it's not necessarily special anymore. I lay down and go to sleep, my eyes are closed, but I can still see the room. And sometimes the room becomes a different room and I'm somewhere else. But that's my consciousness, obviously not my physical body. Again, this is why I don't believe people think they're physically abducted by aliens. I don't think so. I
Right.
think they took your mind, they took your consciousness, and you went on a trip with them. And that is a form of kidnapping.
Yeah.
There's voluntarily going astral and there's involuntary. If you're not laying down and you've read a book about it or you've had some instruction and you're actually trying, if you're not doing that, then it's involuntary. And I think that's a big topic that no one ever talks about how our consciousness is kidnapped. But you ask, like, how is a regular astral projection for me? My body gets all tingly and warm and loving and gooey, and I just feel like I'm weightless. And it's like the opposite of sleep paralysis. It's the opposite of demonic attack. It's much more heaven like. And it's usually when I've been eating well and sleeping well, then I will be gifted with a state of consciousness. And I know it's time to go lay down, even if it's in the middle of the day, because I'm being called. That's a telephone call from above. And so I go and I lay my gorgeously feeling, loving body down on the bed, and then I go. So it's an automatic response. It's not something I needed to study, because obviously I've been doing it since I was born and also in my past lives. It's just normal. I'm a priestess of many lifetimes. So it is normal for me and normal for a lot of you guys out there too.
Right.
So this is the way it usually happens with people, is that you get tingly or some kind of gooey lovey feeling and you just got to go. You got to lay down. But there's also the sleep paralysis attack, which is the opposite side of that.
Right.
And that's also astral projection. Your consciousness is taken to the hell realm, and you can hear like the collective unconscious of humanity, which is a vibrational band above us, as well as the hell realm is a vibrational hell realm above us. This thick layer of ick, of dead people, ghosts, violence, war, everything you could think of. That's what it sounds like, and that's what it feels like. But beyond that is the heaven realm. So we do have to go through hell to get to heaven.
Right.
And if you're just starting astral projection, then you must be committed to your morals. You must know your morals. You must understand that you are an energetic being, and that you are either working for the light or the dark. And you need to know that you're working for the light, for these things, for the astral plane to really greet you with love and blessings. Otherwise, which is very, very normal, you will be greeted with your childhood traumas, the gatekeepers and the guardian at the gate, as Joseph Campbell would say. So you are going to come up against some warriors of some type when you're first trying to do this. That's why it's most important, I believe, to clear out the subconscious, which means heal those childhood wounds and anything that society messed you up with. And that's what I do. I'm a counselor. I help you heal those wounds so that you can be a conscious, creative human and be ready for astral flight and not have to go through demons and dragons and darkness and all your ancestors, because that is usually what's waiting for you.
Right. Now, a lot of people who have near-death experiences that say they go up to heaven and they see people and people go, it's not time yet. A lot of the times when they do that, I'm wondering if it's the same thing in the astral realm as a near-death experience. A lot of people say that when it's time to go back, usually a loved one will kind of push them, and it's almost like diving into a pool back into your body. Is it a similar kind of thing when you astral project?
No, I would say it's different, because when you're at death's door, more of your soul is gone. Okay. Like maybe all of it. But I retain part of my soul in my body to keep it breathing and alive. And so when we have something called, that we've nicknamed, astral whiplash, when you get slammed back into your body because there was a fear or something happened and you're like, crap, and then you're back in your body, that can cause headaches and feeling like you're hung over, like for real. It can really cause problems. Astral whiplash, we call it. It only lasts a few hours, but it's pretty harsh.
So I have a question now too. Let's talk about, I would like you to explain to people who are new to this or who are just starting to figure this out, the astral realm versus remote viewing, because I
Oh
feel like
my God, what a
I feel like
topic.
they could be conflated. Do you know
They
what I
are
mean?
conflated.
So please give us all your information on that.
Okay, so first, back in the past, we had something called a medium. We still do, but mediums were like Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet. He had to go to sleep to get his info, right? That's because he was going somewhere else. He was leaving the body, so to speak. So the thing that the military came up with to try to one up the psychics and to get their military in better shape, basically, what Men Who Stare at Goats, that film is about remote viewing and what the military did with it and still does. And there's actually documents you can look up on the internet that are astral projection documents from
Right.
the government and all of
So
these psychic
for people
things.
who don't know, the idea, but many of you have seen the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats. The idea behind it is these trained psychics were able to just focus their energy on a goat and stop its heart. I'm pretty sure that's what it
And
was, right?
yeah, they also use the astral projection for spying. This goes back to theosophy with Blavatsky, which takes us back to Krishnamurti. So Krishnamurti was kidnapped by the Theosophists at age 14 and raised by them to be the world savior, which he later put the kibosh on and did not do. But he was trained like an MK Ultra child to do that by Theosophy. So what Theosophy did was train children, many little girls around 9 years old. Emma Britton was one of them. Dark Journalist talks about this. But they trained the children, which is, it's really terrible to send kids into the astral without anything, I mean, at all. You shouldn't be doing it. But they were doing it for spying, for their social engineering. They were in cahoots with governments, and they still all are. I'm telling you, it's the same story. It's just, we call it the New World Order now. So Theosophy is a very brilliant example of how they stole children and made them psychic spies.
So can you define Theosophy without getting away from it? Can you define Theosophy real quick? If you had to boil it down to just like a headline for people, because a lot of people hear Blavatsky and they run the other way.
Good, so they should. But I mean, if you want to check her out, go ahead. But to me, she's on par with Aleister Crowley. And Theosophy is Luciferian. They admit it, and they call a lot of their papers and work Luciferian. And Lucifer Trust eventually ended up as the United Nations. So this stuff came from the past, but is now still here working in tandem with the New World Order. So they kidnapped the girls, they kidnapped Krishnamurti, made them psychics, which is a form of soul rape. Actually, it's worse than actually physically raping a child. And that has come down now all the way into the military and to remote viewing. When people tell me they're a remote viewer, click, I hang up the phone immediately. And almost sometimes if they're a medium too, because why? They're working with the lowest band of energy possible, the hell realm. When you're working with a medium, they talk to the dead every day. They are in the hell realm. Okay. So it's like, where would you like to work? Well, I'd like to work way the hell up here, please, away from all the darkness. But this is where the New World Order gets a lot of their power. They are working with that band of vibration of very negativity, and they're bringing it here. They are the vessels for it.
Right. I had this conversation with, I forget, I think it was Nate Gillis. He's the demonologist that I have on all the time. And we were talking about the fact that the one thing they don't teach you, they don't teach us, that people should learn, is that our emotions are so powerful, they're multidimensional.
Oh, very true. Where's kaleidoscope? I mean, can you see it when you think of emotion? Can't you just feel it and see it like fireworks? Like it's our psychic world. It's real.
It is. Absolutely. And that's why they work with the evil parameters, because they feed off of our negative loosh.
Okay, Sam Tripoli with the loosh. All right. Woohoo. Shout out to Sam Tripoli.
I don't think he came up with that word, but I honestly
definitely uses it a lot.
Yeah, I just use it because it's like one word that describes the whole idea. So
true. I'm wondering who came up with doing it live, because everybody says it.
So remote viewing, you see a lot of them. In Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol, they had a remote viewer, and basically you see them, and it's no different than people who are like channeling, I think.
The dead, because they're working in that darker realm.
Right. But you see them with like a pad, and you see them drawing things and trying to make out like different items. And you see the same thing too when psychics come to communicate with the dead, they have a pad, and then they're writing down everything. Usually they write down what's being said to them. It seems like it's like a similar process across the board with that. But I think what is the purpose of staying in that lower realm?
That's the power of materialism. It is all about the ego. They're all feeding their ego. They're in service to self.
Right. I tell people that that's kind of why I reject Satanism and Luciferianism, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the devil or Satan or any of that kind of shit. I tell people that I reject that because, to me, in their tenements, in LaVey's tenements, they talk about the obsession of the self. Mm-hmm. They don't believe in Satan. They don't even believe in Satan. The only one...
Well, many of them don't, but some of them do.
A very few of them do. the only people that believe in a literal Satan are Christians, because Satanists don't. It's just an allegory.
Well,
And
Lucifer was very real for the Theosophists.
correct, it was. But
And still today, believe me, I get asked to join Luciferian orders all the time, and they do believe in Lucifer.
right, but they're kind of misled too, don't you think?
I think they're all misled. Of course they are. But you know what? That's their free will choice, and there's nothing I can do about it. But
Right.
also, I would like to clarify that I am a channel. I'm not a trance channel. I don't have to be all weird. I'm just a living, waking channel. I have my spirit guide, Hermes Trismegistus, the god of Greece. And I talk a lot about him actually on my channel at Rockfin. It's rockfin.com/occult priestess. It's my channel. You can also find me on YouTube, of course, with Micah. So yeah, that's what I'm. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. I want people to check out your work because you are just a wealth of this. It's absolutely incredible. So
I've been doing it since I was a teenager. I've been Wiccan. And then when I was about 23, I dedicated to Buddhism, which really straightened me out in so many ways. But then Wicca is the practice of the cycles of nature, which will also straighten you out as well. So
right,
when I came into my spirituality, I was scared of life, really, because I had this boogie monster, this bully on me all the time. And that's why I was always reaching out for God. Where is God? All I see is the darkness. And it was a really hard life, obviously. But coming into the light is so beautiful and wonderful. I was born into the light, but when you are a loving vibration on this planet, you're going to get attacked. And they want us to feel ashamed and bad for being beautiful. But the truth is that they're hunting us, and we've been
right.
hunted all our lives, all the lives.
So so spiritually you get that. Now, when did you discover, you're looking for God out there. When did you discover that?
I always knew like God loved me. I was told when I was little. I was raised Jehovah's Witness. But I developed a personal relationship with God like nobody's business because I was having nightly nightmares. I was being stalked by a demon. And so that made me uber spiritual. And it was part of my development. It was what God wanted to see in me. Like, okay, let's put all the pressure we can on this little seed, Corinne, and see what she blossoms into. And so there's no difficulty when I think about my past. It was hard, and most people's hair would have turned white and they would have killed themselves. But I'm really proud that I'm still here today.
Very nice. So you've always known that God was inside you too. You've always known that.
Yeah, I never had words for it until I was older, of course,
Right.
because
And
we don't understand, but we
when
feel
we're
it.
talking about the children that were being forced to remote view, people don't realize this, but I talk about this, why Jesus came back at 30 to start his ministry. And I talk about Saturn worship. I talk about your Saturn return, the return of Saturn, which is every 30 years. He leaves when he's 12 because he gets bar mitzvahed because he's a Jew. And then he comes back at 30 because the Jews have roots in Saturnalia worship. And they said, you could not be a teacher until Saturn returned. Do you find that in your life? Did you have a Saturn return story? Did you have like an enlightenment experience when you were 29 and a half, 30 years old? Do you find that to be true for yourself?
So Jesus came to me when I was 30 and helped wake me up. So I was already Wiccan, I already understood old ways, ancient things. I did not understand conspiracy or what this world was all about. Sure, I knew the Catholic Church burned all the witches, made us slaves, did all these things, but I didn't know all of that crap was still going on today. So at age 30, Thoth came to me, Hermes, and Jesus, and they all put me through a rigorous education that whole year. So that was my awakening too at age 30. Now I had a Saturn return around age 27, and that's when my ego died. And so it went from ego death all the way into being initiated into heaven through these gods.
So do you find yourself still growing spiritually every day? I mean,
Well, maybe
at the
not
level,
every day.
well, I meant that loosely, but like at the stage that you're at, just with how much you understand about these realms and everything, do you find yourself coming into new knowledge frequently or periodically that advances how you think? Like, are you still growing, Priestess? As
For real. There's
right,
always a question in my head. That's why I'm Wonder Woman. I am woman and I wonder, right? So that's what I do. I always have a question in my head. So that if you always have a question in your head, it will be answered. Mine get answered within 1 to 2 weeks. So that's what happens to me. I just like get something, I start chewing on it, like, what is this topic? What does this really mean to me personally as a soul? And then the answers, they just slip right in and like, oh, interesting. Now, only if I would write that stuff down, we would have a fun book.
for me, I find that it's interesting because I find that when I was younger and I was drinking and I was doing drugs and I was doing all this kind of stuff, I found that karma kind of built up over time. To me, karma built up over time and then it would whack you. And then it built up over time and then it whacked you. But when I really started to live in the light,
Yeah.
I find that like if I step out, karma comes a lot quicker now.
Bam. Yep.
Yeah.
It's going to give
So
you
it
back
seems like when
the
you're
big
making
back.
bad decisions constantly, it allows it to build up. But like when you start living in the light more often and you step out of line, it's like it reassesses you immediately. Do you find that to be true?
Well, I happen to know through asking questions to my spirit guide that karma is magnetic in nature. So if you understand how magnets work, then you'll understand completely why you get the big smack when you're in the light.
And magnetic is the feminine, isn't it?
I believe it's the interplay between masculine and feminine that makes it magnetic.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
therefore, we could say it is the play of darkness and light that is also the magnet.
Right. Right. So as far as I have this thought that the reason that when you start to discover all these esoteric and hidden sciences and a lot of people can't handle it or you lose your mind is because we are lied to and not shown any of this ever.
It's
In a
true. It
perfect
really peels
world,
the brain apart.
in a perfect world, how would you raise a child with all the knowledge that you know? How would you give them your knowledge so that when they go out and see the real world and see how they're being lied to all the time, they could spot that ahead of time. And then they don't have to go through a mental breakdown when they realize that the Bible's allegorical or things like that.
That is such a beautiful question. And believe it or not, it's something I think about often. I'm wondering myself, how could we and how could I teach a child to be perfect, right? How would that even work? And so far I've come up with you have to move away from the city. You have to live alone with the child, do the farming, do the seasonal work, and nature will actually do the rest. But also understand that people are born with their personalities already intact. Their
Yes.
soul already has karma and they already have work to do. So it would have to be a perfect marriage of events and circumstances to bring about a perfect Buddha child.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Einstein said that if you can't explain something complicated to a child, then you don't fully understand it.
I agree with that.
And I'm wondering how do you even begin to touch these topics with a six
You
or
meditate with them.
7-year-old?
You have to bring them into a state where they're quiet, where it's not cartoons and all these things that go on in everyone's head, not just, adults, but children have a bunch of crap going on in their head. So you have to come to a stillness point, which a child can do easier than an adult. And then in that stillness, I mean, for me personally, I would bring God in and let God speak through me to the child because that's divine and beautiful. And I never let my ego get in the way when teaching, especially someone young and impressionable like that.
Right. Um, it just seems to me that children are easily frightened by new ideas or new things.
Well, I wasn't because of sleep
Right,
paralysis. I
right,
was already afraid.
right. But for the most part, and it's the same thing with adults, I guess, because
Yes, it is
I
because most adults are adult children of alcoholics. I mean, everyone is acting like an adult child pretty much.
right. Um, it's it's where we need to go is what it is, and I think we're in the age of Aquarius now. I don't think this is going to happen in our in this lifetime of ours, Priestess. Um, but I do think in the age of Aquarius, people are going to wake up. I do think in 1,000 years, if we do it the right way, people are going to we're going to ascend. But if we do it the wrong way, we're going to have a new religion. That's what I think.
Oh, that's
Um,
very, very interesting. But you understand already, God is the playwright. So all we can do is be our best self and go with the script and the play. So if
right,
God said, it's going to be another 1,000 years of crap, people, then that's what we're going to have to put our boots on and go ahead and go get in the trenches.
right.
So it is what it is. But the thing that's magical that we're talking about today is the escape from hell, from the matrix, to be able to say at any moment, I'm going to my bed and I'm going to go to the other world and I'm going to enjoy myself there. I'm going to get some soul light. I'm going to get some food from manna from heaven, right? And then come back into this and do your work from that energetic, loving space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important. Meditation's so important. If you want to astral project or see the other world, then you must start to meditate.
Right. Um, can you give us a couple tips on how to start for new beginners? Because what I tell people is I can't sit there in the lotus position and just, that's not me.
I
But
don't
what I
suggest
do,
lotus position for Americans, for Westerners, because it's painful. And the reason why the yogis do it is because it's painful, because it helps their meditation.
I
But
heard that when you do this, you're actually making a nervous connection here that goes directly to your brain.
well, yeah, and then that would be the heart.
They're going to call us Illuminati because we're doing this, by the way.
But this is called mudras.
It's a
They're
mudra,
first
yeah.
in Buddhism, and it's yoga for the hands.
So I tell people to fire gaze, light a fire
That's
pit,
nice because you're
stare
kind of
at it.
zoning out. That
I
kind
tell
of
people to light candles. And I'm kind of torn on whether or not to get scented candles because I've been using non-scented candles, but my wife put on a regular candle because I was having like a rough day yesterday, because I had to deal with coast to coast, and I knew I had that at like 1 a.m. And
yeah.
yeah, so she lit a candle, it was scented, and it kind of helped too. What you do is you stare at the flame, which is
Right.
and it
Which can
lowers your
blank
blood
out.
pressure. Yeah. And
That's the important part.
you can really become one with it. But if,
Yeah.
if people were to meditate the missionary way, like you do, the missionary position of meditation, how do you walk us through it? How do you set yourself up for it?
Well, the thing that helped me the very most when I was about 16, this shaman guy, Ken Day from Cincinnati, where I'm from, he told me, I was like, I can't meditate. I don't know how. I was very, very, very frustrated. And he just looked me dead in the eyes like a teacher. And he said, you see the leaves on the top of the water? Like, yeah, I see leaves on top of water. He said, let them fall to the bottom. And when you're done, you'll be meditating. So I took that home and boom, it worked. It was
That's
like he
good.
gave me a Shakti pot, like a blessing.
That's good. I like that.
It
So
was amazing.
how do you prepare yourself? How would somebody start to meditate if you were to tell them how to begin to meditate?
Everything begins and ends with prayer in my world. Everything. If you're working alone, you're working with a fool, period. So I always reach up to the God and Goddess, Lord and Lady. I do it every night. I still pray every night for everyone and myself. But so that's why it's like so rote in, uniform and ritual for me because I've
Right.
always done it. But I invite them in, God and Goddess, Lord and Lady, like I am your creation, I am your daughter. Please come and help me in this astral form. And so that's what I do. That's what empowers everything I do. is by reaching out to the God and Goddess. And if you want to talk to the one true God, go for it. But I just find that that vibration is very high for me, and it's hard for me to reach the one true God all the time. So I go through his emissaries, the God and Goddess.
Right. People, we talk about vibration a lot, people, and I want you to understand, you've all experienced the higher vibration. If you've ever had an orgasm before, you're literally vibrating at a higher level. Okay, that's it's not always like that, but that's one example, and that's why people chase it so much. Now, my last question that I
Yeah,
have,
only if they chase meditation like orgasms, we would have
yeah,
we'd have peace on earth.
absolutely, and it's different for women than men. I always tell people this because men, when you practice semen retention, you can control your urges. You can control your urges. You're not ruled by your dick anymore. But when you orgasm as a male, when you release, it depletes you. It depletes you of zinc, and
It
it
really
depletes you
does.
of your energy. And
And that's why
women,
you're the inferior sex.
it is because women, they have orgasms and then they can go mow the lawn, which is ridiculous. They have multiple orgasms and then they go and they freaking do something insane.
They sure
Whereas
can
men
empower
pass
us.
out.
But you understand, you're giving a lot of your energy to your female partner.
Right.
You know that, right? You're
Right.
because we're the ones who have to hold the child in our bodies. So
Right.
it's a
Absolutely.
little petite mort for you, but a whole 9 months of hell for us.
Yes. Yes. Doesn't seem fair, does it?
I don't mind. I like the mechanics.
But this is why women were revered in the Egyptian times, because women were revered because they were the portals to bring in a new life. Women were revered by the men, revered. And then the New Testament comes out, and the Jewish people write that women are the cause of sin, and it's been downhill ever since.
Woman is a temple built over a sewer, is what they said.
There you go. So my last question to you, I guess, before we wrap this up is, are you someone who has ever tried psychedelics or have any positive experiences through psychedelics, or is all this all natural? And you know what I mean by all natural.
Well, I'm all natural, but
Yeah.
at age 16, I was in a very bad situation and I took LSD to try to kill myself. That was my plan. If I take LSD, I've heard rumors, I'll be able to kill myself. So what it did is it saved my life. It turned on my pineal and I saw rainbows and beauty and God and Hare Krishna and everything. And I said, oh my God, I forgot all about this realm. This is real. Oh, wow. So it woke my soul up, through LSD, which I do not suggest personally. I suggest more ayahuasca or mushrooms, something like that. But I've done all the psychedelics, and I'm very proud to be able to say that because as a psychic, you should explore psychedelics very safely, very calmly, not in a party atmosphere, but ritual and serious.
Out of all the
Because
psychedelics, out of all the
it's like lubrication for the soul that I'd never had before. I always got like ripped out of my body and thrown back in. But the psychedelics like make it a smooth experience. And I can see and know and hear the other side so well when I'm on one of those. But also I wanted to put a shout out to the cactus. Darn it, to the cactus San Pedro, because that was like drinking my spirit guide. Like he was just there and he was there for hours and we just could hang out and talk like real people. And so I definitely say go for it if you have cleaned up your mess, if you're a moral person, if you feel kind of okay about your childhood, if you've
right. And
done some work.
that's the same thing with things like marijuana. That's the same thing with things like marijuana. Like, these are just going to put a mirror in front of your face. Like, you can't run and hide from yourself. Like, when you're sober, when you're dead sober, you can put up things to
Your
block.
social mask, yeah.
Yeah, you could put up a mask. That gets removed with psychedelics. That gets removed, especially with marijuana. That's why a lot of people that don't have their thoughts under control when they take marijuana. If you take marijuana and your thoughts are under control, what you're going to experience is you're going to see things differently. You're going to hear things differently. You're going to see beauty and depth in things. It's going to slow your mind down a little bit. You're going to be able to appreciate new things. What You're going to see colors are going to be a little more vibrant. What's going to happen if you're not in that state is you're going to have the paranoid experience that people have on marijuana.
Yeah, I
People are
call
like,
it
this is,
it's a boxy brain. You're like trapped in your consciousness and you
yeah.
can't get
And you
out.
start thinking about all the things you've ever done that was negative. And
Oh no, it's terrible. It's like let's
it's
do a
terrible.
joyride through hell, kids.
Have you ever done Bufo or DMT?
DMT, what was the first word you used?
Bufo, toad.
Oh no. So I haven't done the toad. No.
No. Which one of all of them do you think, and I'm sure they're all spiritually helping you and they all show new lights and helped you grow as a person, but which experience did you like the most out of all the high psychedelics?
Well, you do acid. Other people have done acid and it's kind of normal or whatever.
How
But
much acid, how many tabs did you do, by the way?
Sorry?
How many tabs did you do?
My first time I just took one. But
Okay.
my God, on a psychic, it's like taking 20. But my favorite is ayahuasca because you work with her or him, whatever you prefer. Mine had a male voice, but you work with it and you're with your counselor, the ayahuasca, and it can take you anywhere, past, present, future, into your body, out into the cosmos, whatever you need. So I think that ayahuasca is the future, honestly,
Did
which is
you
also
happen
the
to have,
past.
because a lot of people talk about their ayahuasca trip and they say that they basically, they got diarrhea or they threw up the whole time, even though it was mind-blowing and changing. Do you find that happens often, or that didn't happen to you, right?
Well, I understood what was happening to me as it happened, which is so cool about me, right? So, as I was feeling nauseous on ayahuasca said, "You're resisting me." Like, "Oh." And they said, "Feel the resistance." And I would, and I'd be like, "Oh." Now feel the relaxing. Oh. And so it lets you feel your body and you react as it talks to you.
So when I talk about people, I talk about the fact that I have no issue with marijuana. I take edibles from time to time just to relax. I can't really record videos when I'm on an edible because my short-term memory tends to go a little bit. Like I forget what I'm
Right?
saying.
But you
But
could probably wax poetically like nobody's business.
probably, yeah. But what I tell people is the worst drug you could ever do is ecstasy, ever. And it's
I've
not
never
just
done
because
it. I
it's
don't
never
consider
because
it
it's a
a psychedelic
mix
either.
of a ton of different drugs. What ecstasy does is we talk about the Christ, the chrism, the oil that goes up your spine. The thing that ecstasy does is it dries out your spinal fluid, even from the first one that you take, the first pill that you take. Sure, you're going to have a great experience. You're going to have all this. And the one thing they always told you is never have sex on ecstasy because it'll never measure up again. But that's what they say. But don't ever take ecstasy, guys, ever, because it dries up your spinal fluid. And that's your chrism won't be able to rise. And with practices like semen retention or stuff, things of that nature, you can really rise your chrism. And then it gets crucified in the place of Golgotha, Jesus, which is the place of the skull, which is the two hemispheres, which is the pineal gland. So,
It's really
Priestess,
strange. I'd like to tell you that most of my boyfriends I've had in this life could hold their semen and knew the trick of how to do that. And I think that's really weird that I've met so many, well, not just met, but loved so many men that knew that technique, which convinced me, man. I knew these people in past lives and they were around me. I was spiritual, so they knew spiritual things too.
I always say that because I'm practicing semen retention and I do that. I say when I'm finally ready to have a kid, my wife's going to give birth to like a 5-year-old.
That's hilarious. I would love to see more of your wife. I just have never seen her anywhere near you on video.
She doesn't want to be a part of it. She doesn't. She said,
No.
"This is my thing." She doesn't want to be a part of it. She
Well,
does
tell
watch
her
this
I said
stuff.
hi anyway.
Of course, I will. Priestess, this has been amazing. I want to do this again with you soon. We'll do a bunch of other topics. Do me a favor. Tell everyone your social or how they can get in touch with you, and explain real quick too, or not even real quick. You could take your time. The kind of work that you do, because I do in my channel. People do email me. People do email me and they say, I'm having this issue, I'm having that issue. When you start to put yourself out as a public figure and you say things that resonate with people, they open up to you like a book for some reason. I
Yes,
think it's
they
part and
do.
parcel. Yeah, I'm sure you've experienced that too, right? People just, and I'm fine with that.
I think it's beautiful.
It is. But if anyone should come my way and have specific issues, explain to me what you can help with.
Thank you. Also, remember, we're going to meet on the 24th of March, right?
Right.
So we'll be doing
Yeah,
another
that's
video.
Jordan Maxwell died March 23rd last year. We're gonna do a 1 year memorial in memoriam on Priestess's channel, where you're not
Which
gonna
will
make a
eventually be on your
1,000 videos.
channel.
We could do that. We're gonna have you're gonna make a bunch of videos. You're gonna find a few videos of Jordan. You're not going to make the videos. You're going to find a few videos of Jordan. We're going to bring people on. We're going to converse with them. We're going to hear how Jordan has helped them. He was the first person that introduced me into everything. So yeah, Priestess, how can you? What services can you offer to help people? Because people who have had, it's always when you get into our sciences that we talk about, this kind of esotericism, you don't get to this level of understanding and being able to follow this wild esotericism unless you've had a rough time in the past. You have to overcome hell, as you've mentioned before. And a lot of these people share their hell with me. So, what can you do to help them?
Well, I am a healing salve on the wounds of forgetfulness. I bring you rememberfulness, wholeness, selfness. I bring yourself to you. And when that happens, we can both talk to God together. So I do regular counseling. You can see my website, occultpriestess.com. Occultpriestess.com. And so I do regular just counseling, just, about the kids, about the husband, about your life, about your soul. But then I offer very specific services of going into your subconscious, finding your soul, and taking it beyond that threshold into the heaven realm. So I literally take people somewhere. Most of them have never remembered going. And I love that part of my job, that I can just forget the ego, forget, the counseling kind of stuff, and grab their soul and take it back home and have a session with love.
Priestess, there's a fine line that you can walk between having an ego, but it is okay to feel really good about what you're doing if you're good at
Of
it.
course, that's being proud of you should be proud of yourself.
Right.
Totally. That's
Right.
not egoic. That's love. And you
Right.
can tell the difference because it feels
Right.
different.
So, where are you on social media so people can reach out to you?
So Twitter at Occult Priestess, and that means you can message me on Twitter as well, private message. I'm occultpriestess at gmail.com and also occultpriestess.com. But please subscribe to my Rockfin channel, ROKFIN.com/occult priestess. And please come see me over at YouTube. But I have been censored on YouTube. I'm working on a channel strike right now. In the past year, I've had 2 strikes for medical misinformation. So I'm doing something right over there, but I'm not censored at Rockfin. So I hope you do come over. And in fact, today is 2/4/2023. This evening, between 5 and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be live. So come see me over there. And Micah, I loved your questions today. It was wonderful to be with you again. And man, you just make it so cool that I can hang and chill and I don't feel scared and nervous and weird at all. I feel like we're both just sitting around the living room having a chat.
We
I love
are.
that.
We are. We're on the same wavelength on very, 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 very many things. And now that you're in South Carolina, I've got a friend, Frantic Missy. She lives in Charleston. So now that you're on the East Coast and you're way closer, eventually I'm going to make a trip down to South Carolina and we'll get together for a weekend.
Oh, I would love that. And then you can meet Freeman Fly, my neighbor. In
That'd be
fact,
great.
I'd like to put in just a little note.
Sure.
Next Saturday is my birthday, February 11th. Me and Alex Jones both turn 49 years old. But I'm going to have Freeman Fly of freemantv.com sitting right here, live We're going to live stream together. It's my birthday present from Freeman. So next Saturday, check us out on Rockfin.
Priestess, I absolutely adore you.
I love you too.
I'm going to send this over to you right now, okay? Everybody, guys, reach out to her. I'm telling you, I only bring the best people that I know. These are the people who are the farthest reaching into your mind, bringing you wealth of information. If you've had a rough time and therapy is not working or medicine's not working or you have issues like that, consider, I'm not telling you to drop everything. I am not. I'm saying is literally what do you have to lose to let this woman try and help you? Okay, she's a pure soul. You have to be able to see that through this interview. You could see because we wear our, there's no masks. So guys, love you tremendously. Priestess, thank you. I'm going to email it to you in a minute.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Bye, hon.